bringing this particular edition slightly late. This was due to circumstances beyond our guest's control. However, we are here and we are grateful that you could find time to tune in. This is 5FM Radio, and we are live on 89.9 here in Lusaka and the surrounding areas. Remember, we are also live on our partner radio stations, Tuta FM on 90.7 FM in Mansa. And we are also live in the Central Province. And we are live on Spice FM on 91.1 in Kawe, like I said, covering the rest of Central Province. Here in Lusaka, you are well catered for 89.9. And of course, we are also live on Wave FM radio in Mazabuka, covering the rest of Southern Province. Now, my guest today is the United Party for National Development Research consultant, Mr. Mark Simuuwe. Mark Simuuwe, welcome to the program. We haven't talked in the longest time. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Zach, and I've been out for some time, and for a good reason, and with Peking University, which is basically one of the top 20 world universities and the highest university in China, and focusing on the changing geopolitical landscape in the world, China-Africa relations, US-Africa relations, China reforms, economic reforms, talking about agricultural reforms, talking about health reforms, talking about educational reforms, and how they managed to get to where they are as a template for many developing countries like ours, including the effects of the BRICS and some of the shifts that are taking place in the global south as a result of the emergence of the BRICS, and what benefits will come alongside the BRICS, especially for developing countries. It was a quite insightful study, and apart from simply lectures at the university, and also education tours were quite insightful to visit the automobile and the technological advancement that China is endowed with, the vehicles that they are making, how they are partnering with companies like Volkswagen of Germany, and to make certain equipments, including CAT. It was amazing to note that these Caterpillar bulldozers that we see around,
Right.
that they subcontract companies in China to actually do the equipment for them. And then when you are back home here, you wake up and say, that truck code by this name is Chinese. Then to our amazement, we found almost all biggest companies in the world having the equipment done there for them, because they have already made a name for themselves and they have a trademark. And also one of the most advanced cancer screening machines in Hubei province, one of its kind in the world. They've only managed to supply a few of European countries. Now, no African state has that equipment yet, where they're able to screen 1 million samples in 50 days. Early cancer detection, which is a very critical equipment, even for a country like Zambia. And also many other robotic, inventions that they've made, including the industrial economic zones, to mention but a few. But most importantly, the philosophy that drives the education system, and comparing to that of the West, and also what we have taken as a curricula in our context, tailor-made education system, among others, including decentralization. It is what they call the big contract, which basically focuses on rural reforms, where in 1948 and 1949, the Communist Party of China, having taken over as a ruling party for what is referred to as the New China, came up with a number of reforms where they got land from the landlords and they subdivided that land into households. The idea was for them to create food security for their economy, to the extent that one of the objectives was that nobody should be buying food at the level of that particular reform. And they managed. They had even surplus food, and they were able to export using their own people. And also, having received quite a number of sanctions, maybe from the West, how they managed to come up with a homegrown technology, starting from mobile phones and all these things, to where China is. in terms of bilateral relations with African countries, including Zambia, how strategic China is as a partner. Where it is coming from with Zambia, you know that Zambia is the first country to have signed bilateral relations with China. Okay? And how the Tanzania-Zambia Railways still stands as a symbol of China-Africa relations. When Zambia got its independence, right there, we had Chairman Mao engaging his counterpart, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, into some form of bilateral relations. And since then, we've enjoyed cordial relations with that country. Among other countries in the world, including the United Kingdom, the United States of America, France, and to mention but a few. So basically, you can see that if our colleagues did it, they created food security for themselves, worked very hard, relied on their own citizens to drive the economy. Okay, by simply creating opportunities. Then I realized when I was doing one of the presentations that what we are doing under CDF today in this country is basically one of the reforms that helped China. They simply decentralized and allowed at a local level for the participation of citizens in governance and economic issues. Where, for example, today, as we speak, you are aware that about 112 artisanal miners have been licensed by the Ministry of, have been licensed by the Ministry of Mines, so that they can undertake some of those projects. You have the Ministry of SMEs also coming in to help them to launch such programs of mining. What that means is that when those Zambians that are running 112 mines, small-scale mines, take off, they will also create jobs. They will also be taxpayers. That is to mean the economy or the tax base of the country will have grown by the Zambian people. For those people that think that opportunities that are being created are citizens, they should be reminded that 112 artisanal miners. I'm sure you saw it. You must have gotten a story as well as 5FM. So that is a big number. The foreigners that are running mines, commercial mines, are few. 112 is a big number. It's not a small number. If those take off, as government intends to help them to take off. So it is a way of making sure that citizens drive the economy, they grow it. When they're developing these mines, there will be road infrastructure. There will be schools that will be close to these mines in order for the miners to have miners' children to have access to these social amenities. Hospitals will be built close to these mines because then there will be so many people that will need the services. They need to go. There will be shops that will be opened there. And in addition to that, banks will be attracted to construct, buildings there so that they can provide the service to the mines. That is how the economy develops. When that is being done, it means while these artisanal miners are undertaking projects, banks will also be opening more branches, which means they will also be creating more jobs. They will have to recruit more human resource. So you can see that it is a cross-cutting undertaking where one area's development influences many other areas, education, health, among others. Then it also creates social mobility where people will move from one area to the other. Then towns that are close to those mines will also begin developing because people will see a market because of the people that will be expecting an income on a monthly basis. Now, that is what is being done under this government to borrow from the decentralization policy that is being undertaken there. And in addition to that, you are aware that government has moved further to decentralize within the Ministry of Local Government, where even the recruitment and employment will be done at local level. They are designing the human resource management committees so that in Kaputa, if there is a constituency there in Kaputa and it's a district, it means the district itself will once they create jobs, they will employ just there. The skills must be found there. How are the skills found which they need for at the local level? There will be training which has continued to be seen in various districts under CDF. The skills they are looking for example, for heavy moving machines, operators, you simply get those youths that are found there and train them under CDF. That's what we are referring at skills training. Apart from that, you are aware that a good number of youths, about 400 or so, In Simuuwe, just yesterday, they were being flagged, they were graduating. They underwent skills training in operating and repairing heavy-duty machines. You've seen those Euclids, the big machines that are found on the copper belt. Now, what that has done in Northwestern is that those that have been trained there will not be crying that only people from Chingola, Ndola, Lusaka are being employed because they have the necessary skills. The locals have been empowered with the necessary skills, which will be responsive to the needs of the mines there. Then we'll have no excuse when it comes to a bargaining process between the government and the local people, because the local people now are being equipped with the necessary skills that are required by the industry there. Now, it may look like it just remains on paper, but it is happening. I'm sure you followed the graduation ceremony yesterday. Now, this is what is being done. It is an economic model which we need to get used to. Many countries in Southern Africa don't seem to have clear economic models, you know that, because the issue of having a clear economic model is almost alien to many African countries, okay? Where you have a proper framework. They may have development plans, which are not even respected mostly. You have a development plan, but then you have an economic model. How should Zambia come out of where it is now? How should citizens come out of where we are? Number one, give them free education. What that means that in the next 10 years, you won't have, you hardly find the cowboys at the market. Because most of the cowboys will tell you that they really wanted to go to school. They are very intelligent, but there was no sponsorship. Nobody was there. They were staying with their grandmother. So then it is not their wish that they are where they are. They desired to be somewhere. But as they are growing up, if you have noticed, they move away from the job of a cowboy. They relocate and get to a different business. So what that means is that with the increase in the number of pupils that are going to school because of free education, we are likely to get to another level in the next 10 years. That we shall have a cadre of citizens who will have a high IQ. When they engage in SMEs or businesses, they will be thinking fast, because education makes you think fast. That's what it does. Then secondly, education helps you with the skills for problem solving. Now, how does that happen? Those questions you are given in class mostly are about problem solving. The idea is to make you understand that in life, we are always confronted with challenges that will require problem solving. That is what education gives, the power to solve a problem. Even when you go to those that are doing medicine, it's problem solving. They are told when someone has got these symptoms, then it is malaria. So when you go to a doctor, he will ask you, how are you feeling? The moment you start speaking, then him will be going around, going through what he learned. The moment you mention one thing, he knows, what else? What else? He has an idea. Then he will write what you're going to be tested for. They simply picked an idea of what constitutes malaria. These are the symptoms. So if he doesn't find it, he will think through which other disease has similar symptoms. Then sometimes, if he doesn't take you back for testing, then he will tell you, okay, since there's no malaria, you can take this drug. If you don't improve, come back. Based on the behavior of certain diseases, he's able to resolve the problem. So that's what education does. So now I'm saying, with the New Dawn government's idea of providing free education, what we have done is, from the time the New Dawn, UPND New Dawn came into leadership, there were about 5 million to 6 million pupils that were accessing education. As at 2023 this year, after introducing free education, the number stands at 10 million. It is arguably true in the sense that even those with dissenting views are criticizing government that how do you pronounce free education before you construct schools, before you get all the teachers? Because they are saying, now look, pupils now are sitting on the floor. It's unacceptable that one teacher should handle this number of pupils. Meaning, free education is a reality. Now, they will wake up and say, now this time they don't want to hear about free education because it's a plus. So they are saying it's not free education because there are no books given for free, and because there are no uniforms given for free. Now, I want you to understand the reasoning of this kind of reasoning. When President Michael Sata was elected president of this country, away from the PF manifesto, because UPND has been focusing much on free education, the first thing that he did was to provide free education from grade 1 to 7. You recall? Mm. And individuals like Fred Membe was running the Post newspaper. He carried the story that SATA introduces free education. In that free education which SATA introduced, there were no uniforms, there were no books, but he called it free education. Today, we have government paying teachers, paying for the classroom, paying for all the materials and teaching materials that are supposed to be used to teach a pupil through grants. Government is not only pronouncing free education, they are sending money which should have been paid by parents to schools across the country. Because the argument then was that HH is a liar. Where will you get the money to pay all the schools across the country? He said it's about managing resources properly with a little money, the same money that the PF left in terms of what you should be collecting as revenue on an annual basis. Huh? Not living in the coffers, but what is collected, the same money that is collected on an annual basis. The government, under the UPND New Dawn government, had to prudently manage the resources, got part of the money, and started employing from employment freeze. 30,000, more than 30,000 jobs. More than 11,000 jobs. And on an annual basis, there is employment going on everywhere. With the same meager resources, just prudently running them. Now, there is what we call housekeeping. It is basically housekeeping that is going on right now. With the little money that we have, is it possible to run the country? With the little money that we have, is it possible to finance free education? In the view and in the mind of the UPND New Dawn government, it is possible. That is why the CDF. Critics will come, but they will not sway the main objective of providing decentralized resources to the people of Zambia. Even citizens would say, no, but it's not coming as at a goal of it. Yes, but it is clear that it is exceeded the 1.6 million that we used to have on an annual basis. Because just the purchase of a grader, the 1.6 is gone. In addition to a grader, you are seeing bridges being erected. You are seeing classroom blocks being handed over. You are seeing women and youth being given some empowerment. The truth of the matter is that we have been running a crisis in the country, such that the numbers of citizens that are poor are so high that even when you start a project of this nature, which is well intended, fruits will not be seen immediately because you'll be picking a certain number of people in a graduate. Those that have received so far, it is now demonstrated that then this thing is real. Suddenly, council workers can get paid on time. Suddenly, councils are seeing what the development committee is getting busy. A councillor is now a honorable person. That is why in the 2024 budget, it has been considered that councillors must have their salaries increased. Because the job they are doing is a lot of work, regardless of which party they're coming from. They are the ones planning the projects. It is no longer government, the central government. Because previously, we have been running what may be referred as the administrative centralism. So now we are moving, it's a shift to decentralization. Most of the projects could only be suggested by government. How can a person who lives in Lusaka suggest a project for the people that live in Chiluvya Island? Only the people of Chiluvya Island will tell you what priorities they want in that area. And when you talk about priorities, they will tell you that for now, what we need is a clinic. For now, what we need is this. So the projects under CDF will run according to their own priorities. The job of government will be to approve. Now, government has moved further to amend the CDF Act so that most of the activities can start and end at the local level without having all these bureaucratic processes that are delaying projects in certain areas. I can safely indicate to you, Zach, that the New Dawn government is moving that way. In addition to attracting investment, some people are crying that why are you attracting foreigners and not your own people? I've just talked about artisanal miners, okay? Because a Zambian cannot easily run a commercial mine, a big one like KCM. So what do? You must empower them. When they become artisanal miners, the next level after they've made enough money is they'll be applying for a commercial farm, for a commercial mine. Because they will have made enough money, they can now be ready to partner with colleagues to run a commercial mine. That is how citizens can come out of this problem. What about our brother who is a cowboy? What is there for him? They are not exempted from these initiatives that we are talking about for skills training. You don't need a grade 12 certificate to do carpentry, to do bricklaying, because construction is an ongoing thing. There is too much construction going on in the country everywhere. What people are lacking mostly are bricklayers. Carpenters, this time, carpentry is becoming lucrative because of CD. Of these youths that are getting contracts. By the way, let me say this. The majority of the people, citizens that are getting contract to supply, we may even say 98% of the desks that are in schools are being supplied by Zambians. Those desks you are seeing. And we are using local timber, not imported from somewhere. Meaning we can now regulate the price. And that is why the price is reasonable. And in addition to that, it means that you are not only giving business to those that are supplying, you have given business to the carpenters. Now, the very fact that projects are too many and the carpenters may be few has made government come up with a well-coordinated and structured program where the demand for carpenters is going up. Then they've decided to start training under skills training. Have you seen how coordinated the program is? They are pronouncing free education knowing that there will be more demand for classroom space. They are constructing classroom blocks under CDF. They have pronounced free education and the pupil-teacher ratio is appalling. On the other hand, they are also recruiting on an annual basis. As we are talking, very teachers, those that were recruited last year are on the payroll, meaning over 32,000 families had an income which they never had many years ago. This year, over 3,500 will again have an income upon this particular recruitment done. In the health, it means over 11,200 families had an income in Zambia, which they never used to have on a monthly basis. This year, 3,000 families in health will have an income which they never used to have. And the train is moving. You may not capture everybody. Like I mentioned that we are running a crisis. For example,
just hold it while you are running a crisis. And it's at this point that I would like to bring in an issue that has been a burning issue. And this is an issue to do with compensations that we have witnessed. And these obviously come in various ways. I mean, wrongful detention and the like. And the issue that has arisen from stakeholders out there is that this government, the UPND members that were that faced injustice and sued government for compensations, the moment they won an election, it should have been, as a leader, that should have been the pride to say, drop all these cases, because then what we suffered for, we have achieved it. And whilst managing a crisis and all that kind of money is being paid out to individuals, one would say, and of course, stakeholders have spoken loudly about this, being careless, being one of the ways to steal government money. And others have said, the UPND have suggested to say what probably this government could have done is that could have put up a commission of inquiry and ask for all those that faced injustice under the previous regime, as opposed to selected few who apparently are members of the UPND. Why wasn't a commission of inquiry set up so that all Zambians, even those who don't belong to UPND, but faced injustice under the previous regime, should have an opportunity to be heard and probably compensated?
Thank you. Let me first of all deal with the issue of compensation before I talk about UPND.
Right.
In the first place, you have laws in this country. And as we talk about compensation, no law has been broken. From whatever angle you look at it, there is no law that has been broken. Now, what is compensation? Compensation is basically damages given to an aggrieved person for the injury suffered. That is the simplistic definition I can give. And usually done under what we call the law of tort. The law of tort, T-O-R-T. Now, a tort is a civil wrong. Civil, not criminal. It's a civil wrong for which the law provides the remedy. That remedy is called compensation. That's what the law says.
Right.
And the students of law are learning about the law of tort as a course, either for as a half course for a semester or the whole year, just to talk about compensation and how what we call the tortious liability comes about. For the one who should compensate, to move in and compensate the one who has suffered the injury. They will be learning the whole year how to compensate an individual. All the lawyers in this country have learned about that. The whole year is a full course, learning how to compensate an individual who has suffered the injury. So no law has been broken, number one. Number two, these issues that you are raising are non-issues where you say perhaps they should have done this. A compensation, Zach, is a punishment. It should not be enjoyable to compensate an individual. It must be painful. Why is it a punishment? It is drawn from the reason for the existing laws. Is to deter to be offenders. In other words, to stop the behavior by government to oppress its citizens. They must pay with pain. Compensation is a punishment. I bash you, break your leg. I must pay through my nose to pay you. And to make sure you receive treatment. That is the compensation. Imagine we start saying, oh, these who are bashed, we should just negotiate and say, no, don't worry, leave it. The only problem that people have here is that the majority of these who are aggrieved are UPND. But the law is blind to UPND. The justice system that we have is for the citizens of this country. For your record, there are even other people in the opposition that have sued. You are aware that Kasongo died from NDC in Wansha. You are aware of that?
That's right.
In Mansa, it's not UPND. They have sued. Let us be fair. He was shot. He was a prosecutor. Joseph Kaunda is not you. See, we are talking about things that will satisfy certain political appetites. The people who are the loudest mouth in this particular matter are the perpetrators. The people who are perpetrators, the same ones. You see, Zach, there are youths that are moving with bullets in their buttocks because Zambian hospitals failed to operate on them, and the police refused to give them a medical report because they were scared of being fired by PF. What kind of leadership is that? They are with bullets. The other one, Pablo from Chibolia, has a bullet in his arm. They could not operate on him here. And for them, the Zambian hospitals told them it's too complex. There are two things. Say you leave it like this until you die. But they are in pain. There are times when just that with a bullet for the past 4 or 5 years with a bullet in their body. You want them to go and say it's okay, forget about it? No, sir. The law provides the remedy. That's what I said. And lawyers go to study for 1 year that course to understand how compensation is done. That's why even the Law Association of Zambia will not quote a single law. That is too much. Because the one who determines the quantum apart from simply the court is the one who has suffered the injury. That's how it works. Compensation has been going on even under the PF. On TV, last week, I was, so that, listeners cannot see, I was able to demonstrate cases as early as 1800, which are quoted in Zambia to create case law for compensation. 2016, when the PF were there, I had to flash it on the screen and ask them, here are people being compensated. Here are people being compensated. When Michael Sata won. Those that may have been abused were compensated. At the time that PF was there, many people who have been compensated today sued. The matter was not moving. They were just adjourning. Then where is justice? We should be more concerned if the people that are being paid never suffered the injury. Then we can call it theft. Theft is defined by the Penal Code. Basically. Also another case laws.
Where others have come in, where the illegalities seem to be highlighted, is where people who are on Nole are getting compensated. And they are saying, and the Nole is not an acquittal.
Now, let me say this. There is no law that stops you from suing the government, even when you're in the entire Nole. That's what I'm telling you, that there is no law that has been broken. A Nole is basically the power exercised by the DPP to discontinue a matter in a court with or without a reason. There's no provision that you cannot sue. Have you told the listeners and Zambians that there is one? So we can raise the bar of our debate in the country and demonstrate which law has been broken. Perhaps we can be debating about the quantum, the amount involved. A person that has a bullet in their buttocks is told you can only be operated on in India. How much do they need? 350,000. And someone is there, they're saying, at least 50 pin. Are you being serious? Are you being serious? Even if you heaped 2 billion or trillion, you can never buy life again in the context of Mapes Chibolo. Lawrence Bandas, is this the wife or the child, the family? They must be compensated. Compensation works on the maxim. The reason why this is being done by the law, so that the government stops abusing the rights of citizens. They will be scared of losing money in the future if there is no due diligence in terms of the due process of the law. That's why I'm saying this compensation you are seeing is not a favor. It's a punishment at law. It punishes the one who is compensating. If government today started paying people 20,000 kwacha, 50,000 kwacha, you will see a crackdown which will be done. Opposition and all these, they will be hammered badly. Government knowing it's okay. We won't spend 1 million to pay all the 100. But if they know they have abused the rights of many citizens, then they know they will have to cough. It's a punishment. And when paying compensation, it should not be enjoyable. It must be painful. The pain that citizens are going through when they see people being paid these colossal sums of money should make them put pressure on the government to never again abuse fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens. That's what it means. And that was the intention of putting this law in place, like in any other jurisdiction, to stop the government from going on the same path, to avoid losing money. You're saying you can go ahead and for trial. Do you know how many lawyers at the Attorney General's chambers that they have to subcontract lawyers elsewhere to run a case? Some of the cases started last year. I mean, the time Mwari Teta, the moment he came out, they are being compensated now. They sued immediately. So that is the situation. Imagine a situation like Max Simuuwe. You know the story. They just want to punish him because he doesn't agree with them. He's nabbed. No. A person who is a victim having lost a BMW and reported to the police, then they turned around and no, 3 years ago, you smuggled a BMW. Then they nab him. They say, no, let us explain. Go to the police and do ABCD. Bundle that person, guns blazing everywhere. You've seen C5, the way they move. Private vehicle, bundle, they cause so much trauma as if they are hunting for wild animals around the yard. Put in the boot to get people nakonde, straighten inmates and explain things. Even when the officer in charge at Handsworth Police told them that, colleagues, we are all police officers. The issue for which you want to get this person for is being handled by my officer. They did not want to listen. They never even informed the commissioner for Lusaka, the commissioner for Muchinga, because they were sent. Along the way, they started complaining. No, we are being abused there, blah, blah, blah. What do you expect Mark to do when he has an opportunity? To spare them, and it's okay. Then the government will remain a perpetrator. Now, the people who are crying the loudest and saying this is theft are the ones that were causing pain. The ones that made Lawrence Banda's life to go. He's no more, and he'll never come back. They are enjoying and coming back to mock the people that this is too much money. That is why I've been suggesting that going forward, we may have to enact a law as a country where the people that are entrusted with leadership act responsibly when they break the law by abusing the rights of citizens. When it comes to compensation, it should not be government paying. It should be the perpetrators paying, like Edgar Lungu and his friends. Perhaps it will stop. Then you'll understand what we are talking about. Because if you injure me, it is not you to tell me how you're going to compensate me. If you bash me, you break my bone. I'll tell you all the costs and everything. Why do you want to suggest for those that have suffered the injuries? So, in some cases, the court can even raise, when they check the amount involved and the pain and the manner in which you were injured, the court maybe is actually increasing it. And then at the same time, a consent judgment is a legal process. No law is broken. We should be discussing laws that are being broken. Someone wakes up and says, no, because it's a no, it's not an acquittal. A decision has been made. A matter can be restarted if the DPP so wishes. Then you contest it. Because if you are not careful, are you aware, first of all, Zach, that in Zambia from independence, citizens for a very long time were able to understand what a nolle prosequi is for the first time, because there were too many. That is how the government then was abusing their powers. They were dropping cases because they did not have merit to prosecute the matter. That was abuse. What do you make of a situation where the vice president then, our madam, said, the ones who have been to the market at Soweto is UPND. Innocent people who have families and children were nabbed and locked up beyond what is prescribed by law. Afterwards, they were just released, not even a nolle. What is that? You don't want them to sue? And yet the law allows for forced imprisonment, and there's too much case law in the Zambia law report which justifies compensation for forced imprisonment because of our human rights. Do you know why our human rights record was bad? It's because of these things that you are compensating government for, these people for. Human rights record was bad. All independent institutions that came to Zambia recorded the human rights record was bad, and they don't do their own research. They rely on the Human Rights Commission. Their own Human Rights Commission gave them the record. It was bad.
Now, Simuuwe, you are UPND research consultant, and talking about the fact that you mentioned Edgar Lungu, talking about Edgar Lungu, who has announced his comeback to obviously save the Patriotic Front from what he terms the ruthless hand of Mr. H.H., who he believes and accuses of having a hand in the confusion of the Patriotic Front. He has also dared, the UPND government because he feels that all the cases around his family are a way of trying to get at him. And he says, I dare you, leave my family out. If you have an issue with me, come for me.
No.
And his comeback has been interpreted in so many ways.
Yes.
And the interpretation also that has been made, one of the interpretations are that he's coming to stand in 2026. And this is the reason why this UPND government is agitated by his comeback. Is this government agitated by his comeback?
Thank you. First of all, it is within his right to participate in politics because the fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens guarantee freedom of association. It was himself, without anybody telling him, who also wrote a letter that he has resigned from active politics. Nobody told him. So if he decides to come, it's entirely up to him. Now, where he says, leave my family, he was entrusted with public office. And when citizens were saying these are corrupt, they were raising certain concerns. There were questions of, in the first election he stood for, he made a declaration. And then the declaration jumped to over 22 million. People said, how come? In less than a year, we know the salary of a president. So when people begin to question, for example, a child of a president who has he is not on a salary, then he has property that is unexplained. The law requires that you account for the property, regardless of who you are, because the law says nobody is above the law. The laws that we have are not only for poor people, because the trend that is growing from the opposition now is that when an opposition leader breaks the law, they must be spared, because when they are touched, then it is dictatorship. When a brother in Chiboria or at Soweto Market, Kulima Tower or Millennium breaks the law, they must be nabbed and ambushed the way it has been happening for traffic offenses. No, sir, we are all fair. Why do you accept to go into public office if you don't want to be questioned? It is not that the people that have been dragged in these families, they are being asked for things that they had before. They are being asked for the things that they never had. They are being asked in some cases for things that have not paid tax, because the law requires that if you acquire a lot of property, you must demonstrate where the money has come from. You must also indicate the taxes that you paid. That is not prosecution. So it is not right that you play victim when you knew that so many things went wrong in your government. At some point, you even said yourself that some of your ministers were corrupt. When they are followed, you today you turn around and you say they are being persecuted. What kind of reasoning that? It's on paper. It is on record. He said it himself. You unleashed even ACC on your own ministers. When they are followed for the same offenses, then it's persecution. At your time, it was cleansing. It was not persecution. So we must be fair with one another. And the point that we're trying to raise is that let us allow the wheels of justice. We should not be playing victim to win public sympathy. If you know you are innocent, you'll be acquitted. Full stop. We had the Simuuwe case there. He won the case. It's as simple as that. There is no need. There's not UPND which is agitated, where he's saying, no, it's a crackdown. There's no democracy. Just like Comrade Winter Kabimba in one of the programs said, when the PF has died, it does not mean democracy has died. It's as simple as that. Is it UPND which told ECL to want to contest when there was an advert which was made within the party for people to contest the presidential position? Was it UPND which was managing the process? Was it UPND which adjourned, which postponed the party elections for the president? It is the PF themselves. They started fighting because they disagreed with some of the people that filed in and paid. Then they closed the nomination date. It's like ECZ. The Electoral Commission of Zambia advertises for nominations for presidents. And then they say the closing date is tomorrow. Then next week, another person who did not want to stand pops up. Then they say, we know that we closed for nominations and all of you paid. But we are opening again. We want that other person to also stand. And that's the confusion they've created for themselves. It's not UPND that decided that. It's themselves. Let us be fair with one another. I'm sure you understand the Patriot Front very well. In the state in which the PF is, nobody is willing to be under the other. You can get them. They are so filled with the pomp that they cannot serve under the other person. Get the presidential candidates there. Tell me which one wants to serve under the other. All those big guns that are lined up there. Now, that is the beginning of the confusion, because they have not strategically planned. If one wins, what happens to the rest? You watch the space. You watch the space. So now, when they are aggrieved, they go to court. It's as simple as that. The problem that we have right now is that because of the way Edgar Lungu was running the country, where he messed up MMD, where there was MMD A and B, he believes there are other colleagues that could be doing the same things. There, Amenoko, by Kalabebere, no, we are not going for elections. Why? Before you realize it, other people that filed in nominations started endorsing Edgar. Then someone said, what? I'm a caretaker, Zava. Why are they changing goalposts? We have paid. We will not allow this. And the court process started. How do you accuse other people when you start confusion on your own? Perhaps the only blame that they will put on the UPND is that UPND will celebrate, of course, when they see that the party, which claims to be organized and want to bounce back, is mad with confusion. Because this is a political race. So it is the mockery from our members online. Oh, what? Mbappe, what? Hey, Mingalato. It is that language that is messing them up, and they feel things are not working out for them. They are also calling themselves through PF. That's fine. But then the point is, let us not drag in the UPND on a matter that we have manufactured ourselves. In the first place, PF nickname is confusion. They've never had a successful convention. It is not long ago when ECL at the Mulungushi Local Authority lined up thugs with machetes to block Mao Sampa from entering the arena and later on declared himself a winner and stood for elections. Have citizens forgotten what was happening there? So now, imagine with that confusion, how would Mao Sampa blame the UPND and Mulungushi Local Authority? Because they know each other. Mao Sampa simply operated on the lesson. They say, once bitten, twice shy. That's what he used. He knows Edgar Lungu very well. And how he was hammered at the Mulungushi local authority. He said, not again. And he did almost the same as what was done to him. Now, how do you drag UPND in the whole mess? How? You have members of parliament there. They will make decisions. They started even cheating themselves that because they don't want to read in PF that, PF has got enough numbers, 56 MPs, they'll create a crisis. They have forgotten they amended the constitution themselves. They have forgotten they amended the constitution, but because the constitution was being amended on their behalf, they were not reading. The constitution prescribes the time for general elections. They don't realize that if MPs resign, they will not stand again. And which MP does want to move out of parliament? Which MP wants to move out? If they resign, they will not stand again. They will not again. Then two, if they resign, there will be by-elections. Then when they realize that, we amended the constitution, the speech that we gave by this Rosy Sweetheart, Simuuwe, is misguided. Then they went under. Now, how can the people that amended the same constitution fail to understand it and they went viral and discussing, thinking that they can create a crisis and go for early elections? When some of us wrote, I was in China then. Then I said, what kind of reasoning is this? You have all these, the Munduvides, very senior lawyers. They couldn't see this. So the point I'm trying to drive home, my brother, that we can be decent in our conversation in the country and then focus more. That's why when I came, the first thing that I started doing here on this platform today was to talk about our successes. Usually I want to have very little time to talk about other people. We have more problems to discuss affecting the people of Zambia. Indeed. And to also provide an insight on what solutions the government has, whether there is hope or not, so that people can understand.
And talking about that, and well, also it's because our program started a little bit late, and I know that time is not with us, but I will take you into the issue that you started off when we started this conversation. You spoke about how far the cordial relationships between China and Zambia have been, and your experience and your research and when you went to study in China has really showed you that this country is somewhat headed in the right direction. But this right direction obviously is being spearheaded by the UPND in government. But the issue here is about the mindset of Zambians. Because why am I saying this? If our cordial relationships come as far back as the time of independence, for example, and China is where it is, and we are not even a quarter close to what China is, despite enjoying the cordial relationship, it tells us that we have a problem, because with the relationship with China, surely China would have, and I'm sure they've been always willing to pull us along with them and develop at least closer to what they are. What is wrong with our country? Is this the cancer of democracy that has left us where we are? Because I don't think that is the case with China. Do we need to change our politics in Zambia? Do we need to change the constitution? Because clearly democracy seems to be failing us economically.
No, that's a fully packed question, and it raises ideological concerns on what you have raised. If you look at China, you may wish to know that the communism that they are using there is not the absolute communism. Of course, they are motivated by Marxism, okay? But then you need to understand that they are calling it socialism with Chinese characteristics.
Right.
For your record, China has undergone so many reforms. There is democracy now within their context. People are elected. The president does not do as he wishes. There is a what they call politic bureau. Politic bureau, which has 7 people, headed by the premier, who is the prime minister there. Then you have also the central committee. Then you have research institutions. It is a very interesting structure in terms of the way they govern the country. Then they have decentralized, where there are about 4 autonomous regions. Then they have provinces, which have those autonomous provinces are actually referred to as a country. For example, Xinjiang, which is the biggest province in China and an autonomous region, of the size of the entire Southern Africa. By the way. So I was flying from Beijing, going to about close to 6 hours, 30 minutes within China, going to land in Xinjiang. So visited about 3 cities there. The city of Ili, the city of in Hotian, I went there, in Hotian, and until I reached the headquarters, Urumqi. Apparently, the Chinese that you see are referred to as the Han Chinese, who constitute about 91% of China as a whole. Then you have the Mongols, who are from Mongolia. You have the Kazakhs from Kazakhstan. It's a concoction. You have the Uyghur people in that particular area. Okay? They work decentralized system, but with what they call administrative centralism, where the policy frameworks will be determined by the CPPCC, which is basically a CPC consultative committee, which is composed of 8 political parties. So, the CPC, the Communist Party of China, is in an alliance with 8 political parties. But they are not equals when it comes to making final decisions. And they constitute that particular consultative committee, which collects views from the people as a template for development. A semblance of the CDF approach we are taking, where the constituency development committees and the ward development committees are getting views on what should be done in that particular constituency. China has a complex system that runs that way, which we cannot unpack in one conversation. I would wish that one day we perhaps discuss comparatively socialism versus democracy in details.
Right.
Now, in addition to that, you may wish to know that China is opening up for those who are preaching socialism in Zambia without understanding what is going on. Shenzhen, a city there, where President HH went and landed straight, was deliberately picked with Shanghai, for China to test foreign direct investment. And they realized that all the cities in China put together, they realized that Shenzhen surpassed all of them in terms of revenue collected. So now what does China do? That's why you're hearing President Xi Jinping trying to talk about the opening up policy with a win-win situation. They accept American companies there in Shanghai, Shenzhen are full. You are preaching about something else here, and you are living over 100 years ago in your reasoning. That's what is happening. There are companies, state-owned enterprises, and there are private companies that have partnered with government right there in China. In the tech industry, I visited another province in Hebei, in Gaoyang. I found textiles that are owned by families, but they are working with the government. I also found farmers in the rural setup where government has 50% shares. Government is trying to partner with its citizens in Zambia through those agro loans you are seeing. It is an issue of mindset change. That's why we are teaching general agriculture under CDF. It takes a bit of time. Citizens are still resistant in Zambia. They don't want to be told to go and do what you want as a leader. They are saying, I have my own life. They don't want any suggestion of that nature. But eventually it has to change because it has taken China many, many years from 1948. to get to where they are. They had to put citizens in full gear, that the country will only be managed by yourselves. Any other country in the world is financed by its own citizens through taxes. The moment you remind those that are not contributing taxes that all countries in the world are run by citizens, then you empower them through all these loans. And mind you, what we have done is, previously civil servants would be stopped from doing certain businesses, especially getting money from government.
Right.
Under this initiative of agricultural reforms in Zambia, it's an economic model we are taking. We are allowing civil servants to get a loan as well, so that they can do what? Engage in farming. It's a complete shift in the economic model Zambia has been using. And you will see in the next 10 years where Zambia is going to be. We will not only be food secure, we will have surplus to export. Now, because the president knows what he's doing with his team, quickly he has already gone to sign in advance, because before the markets are closed, he has gone to sign market access agreements with China to supply agro inputs there. He has also managed to penetrate European Union, where it was difficult because they were raising concerns of standards. He has managed to sign a market access. Then what does he do? He has now to push like a vehicle that can't start. He has to push citizens, because he has lived that life before, to change their mindset, to invite them, to attract them. First of all, what does he do? He adjusts the maize floor price deliberately with his team, so that it becomes attractive. Then a farmer will check and say, how much will I make? The farmer checks and says, oh, there will be a lot of money. Let me also look for it. I'm sure you are aware that right now, many cities are looking for fields. I'm sure you've seen that. They are beginning to get into the gear slowly. You need to take time. And it will happen as if it is automatic. I'm meeting so many, they are talking about a field. Even 2 hectares. What I've said, now citizens are realizing that we have to get somewhere as a country. China developed that way. I visited even the village where the agreement was signed to do that, which they call the big contract, of where China's reforms, the base of China's economy, was signed. I visited that place. The automobile companies which are making vehicles, to my amazement, I visited those plants. I said, oh my God, we have a long way to go. In terms of infrastructure, they are bad news. They have the fastest bullet high-speed train in the world. And all the developed countries put together, you get their speed trains. China is still surpassing them on the number of speed trains that they have. In terms of kilometers, they have over 3,000. It means it's over 3,000. Over 30 kilometers. It means over 3,000 kilometers per se. Of railway line. Speed train. That speed train is separate from subways, those trains that move underground. They have sorted out the issue of communication, and they have a saying, which I picked from one of the professors, that if you want to develop a city or a country or a place, first of all, build the road, build the railway line, put tarmacs. Have you noticed that we are deliberately opening up the country by constructing airports? Now, ProFlight has resumed landing in Kasama. Next year, we are beginning to construct an airport, first ever airport in Muchinga in Chinsali. These local airlines will start landing there because minerals have been identified. Citizens there have applied for licenses they have been given. They are looking for equity partners. Then government, what the government do? Through Zambia Development Agency, government is finding equity partners to come and partner. When those people are brought here in partnership with Zambians, opposition are insulting them. Then when they arrive here, they are saying, what kind of human beings are these? They are telling us some Zambians that have been given licenses, they have no capacity to buy all these machineries to run a mine. So Zambians are saying, come, we partner. Government brings us here and we are being insulted. That's what is happening in Zambia, my brother. So there are companies there opening up. Cut all these big companies we are seeing. Designers of clothes. Their clothes are being manufactured there. I was shocked. I entered, I think I have even a clip. I said, what? We imported this from Europe, but yes. They are using a textile there because they've already made their name. Then they will transport them on a ship and they continue selling. When things come, we say, oh, this is from China. I was shocked, especially for the bulldozers. I just held my cheek and said, yeah, this is an embarrassment to me. We have checked these vehicles. And then I was telling my friend who was coming from Sri Lanka that, you know what? In my country, you hear people say, go and buy Caterpillar. Don't buy these others. Then we saw them lined up. All of them are produced by the same company. They just put a brand. They have been subcontracted by Caterpillar. I said, what? That is what is happening, my brother. Then our mindset must change. How do you say change people's mindset? Free education. We are running coordinated programs, which will be appreciated when we get there, with a proper economic model. And then one of the professors, Professor Zhang, who was taking me in one of the international relations courses on the global economy, asked a question when we were discussing Lobito Corridor, which will be opened by the G7, financed by the G7. He posed the question. After he explained the China-Zambia Railways initiative and the Belt and Road initiative, you've heard about it, where China is putting up a railway line and a road across the sea, ocean, up to Europe. Now, remember that it's not a new initiative. The British South African company attempted to do the same. Unfortunately, countries became independent before they could do that. They wanted to construct a railway line from Cape Town to Cairo. The idea was to get into it for easy trade and investment. So this road, including this railway line, including Mombasa, China-Zambia Railways, is very strategic for trade and investment with the Far East. It is an old railway line. And I made a demonstration, a presentation in a lecture theater, which was, and then at that point I was representing Africa because they picked one representative from each continent. I represented colleagues from South Africa, Nigeria, Tanzania, Malawi, Angola, Egypt. I was now a representative there on China-Africa relations. I did my research, demonstrated in PowerPoint how much investment from China is there in Africa by country. Well, by the time I was done, there was a standing ovation. One of them confessed that you seem to know China and Africa relations more than some of us. Then they started exchanging my photo until another lecturer in another course came and said, my friend sent me this, which I will show you, but unfortunately listeners cannot see it, and said, this person is extraordinary. Now, let me go back to the issues. I'm saying free education is the mindset change. It is a gear 4 from gear 1. It is a game changer. CDF is Zambia's economic model now. And in the mind of the president and his team, all the cabinet ministers, they have a strong belief that Zambia will develop using CDF. And they said we must take a risk. The risk we will take is that the money our friends were using to drop ka bridge katoweka akali skuru palia, let us allow citizens to be the ones to use it and run it. As government, please facilitate. That's what they are doing right now. Power being given to citizens to manage their own affairs. But now, because damage has been too much, you have just in education alone, in the previous advert, we had 105,000 applicants for only 30,000 spaces. How many remained? Over 70,000 on the street. Plus there were more graduates because there were no proper strategic, long-term plans for the country to sustain the labor force. The other point I want to raise is that China invested in what we call human resource. Human beings as a resource. That's what we are trying to do. When you educate them, their thinking will be different. They will even become more critical of government decisions, thereby creating quality leadership because they're educated. In the next 10 years, Zambia will be comparable in the region. It will have more educated people than any other, except for those that are following now, copying from Zambia like Kenya. The moment Ruto was first thing that he talked about first is 30,000 teachers. Because he saw what was being discussed in Europe. When prime ministers and presidents came to HH and say, how did you do it? You are indebted. Where did you get the money to do that? Then he started unpacking. And we hear you have increased CDF. What is that? He explained to them. Then I said, then we can partner. As I'm talking to you right now, my brother Zach, there are international organizations that have come on board to help you government with a progressive, meaningful project of skills training. They have admired government initiative. They said, we can support this. When UNICEF looked at Zambia, they said, this is the initiative when we have been trying to promote rural education. Why has it come so late, more than 50 years after independence? It was tried under the one-party state. When I was explaining to some people in China, I sat down with some professors. I told them, Zambia was a socialist state. They didn't know that. Some of them didn't realize. What do you mean? I said, most of these things, I want you to understand where we lost it. I told them, most of these things I'm seeing in China here, we are being produced in Zambia. I told them, number one, all the taps, pompi, we were making in Zambia. I told them. He said, are you sure? My friend in Angola said, are you sure that yes? In Somali, I told them, we were making in Zambia. We were not importing. I told them we were making in Zambia. I told them we motor car assembled about 2 of them in the country. They said, what? That yes. These automobile machines you are doing where you're assembling cars, we had it in Zambia. We had a national airline where people could fly from here to the USA, here to Europe. I told them, we also had this initiative you have where all industries belong to a particular institution, like Indeco. That's where Indeco House comes, those people that they do not know. Findeco, a group of financial institutions, because what China has done, there is a bank that finances construction. There is a bank that finances agriculture. I told them, we are the group of financial institutions that were doing that. And the building has remained. It is called Findeco. I said, oh. Yeah, there is also a building called Zimuko. So there are different groups of companies. All these were in Zambia. We were a socialist state, but it collapsed. Obviously, people could not support socialism at that time because Zambia was helping many countries in the region to become independent. And were they going to be independent using socialism? That became an issue on the international scene. So when I started unpacking these things, they said, no. They spoke amongst themselves that, can we have a presentation from the young man? And I prepared the presentation.
Mark, let me get phone calls.
Get the point.
Yeah, let me get phone calls because then we need them to...
We lost it, my brother, and now we want to get back there. But we have to push citizens to go back. But how do we do it? We must help them. Civil servants, allow them to do other works, not just working as civil servants. Don't restrict them. That's what we have done. Let them also do business to help other people so that we can be food secure. Government can as well participate as a participant and be able to export to other markets like DRC, Rwanda, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, the European Union, where the president has already signed market access agreements and they are ready to receive these things, including China. I went to the CPC, I asked them, the president signed. Is it moving? Yes, it's moving. We have requested for a list of companies that are based in Zambia that are producing oranges, blueberry, and all these. We are ready to receive them. Once those things are done, we can now attract Forex into our economy. Then the issue of kwacha will be a thing of the past because then mines that are being opened, because Mopani mine will live again. The president has already signed, the government has already signed with an equity partner. I'm sure you saw it. Mopani must come back. Once it comes back, our traditional export copper will go and attract Forex into the economy. We can grow more money in the economy and our kwacha can remain strong again. But again, even when there are all these problems, kwacha still remains strong against regional currencies like Kenyan shilling, Tanzanian shilling, South African. We still have that. Though in Southern Africa, Botswana's, still doing very fine.
Right.
But it's also a small economy. You're talking about 2.4 million. Just like Namibia. So we really need to work hard to produce more, to transcend the boundaries of these countries, because the countries that are surrounding us, most of them have small populations, especially in the West. Okay? So now you can see that we are trying to grow the economy and the lost glory that Zambia once had, where we were manufacturing vehicles, we were assembling vehicles here per se. We were manufacturing ball pens, books and everything. I told them we were manufacturing. Clothes, we were not importing. We had textile industries. Blankets and also bed sheet were being produced in Zambia. I told them there. I told them how many years ago. Then they start looking at me and they said, but what has gone wrong? You are importing today. That yes, it is an issue of leadership crisis the country has suffered from. We had wrong policies. policies that were inconsistent with the requirements of society. And now we have to come out of this. To come out of this will be an issue of mindset change. So my brother, it is a passionate appeal to Zambians that we must support initiatives that are aimed at growing the economy as citizens, as participants.
Let me take phone calls now. Good morning and welcome to the program. Hello, good morning.
Mr. Simuuwe.
Is this Professor Ngwale?
Once upon a time.
Professor Ngwale, how are you?
Jonathan, our friend is your party and someone at party. I'm really very happy to hear how we are debating issues.
Yeah.
How
are you today, Professor Ngwale?
Rehabilitated, disoriented, disenchanted, but because I'm a sexuagenarian, but I'm placated and modified by how my good friend Simuuwe is articulating issues. About that, in case you don't know, when UPND was in its infancy, I pleaded with and appealed to him, young as he was, to join UPND.
Yes, I remember.
I remember. He has always mentioned that him and I have been very good friends.
Exactly. I remember now, you told me that you should consider joining hands with HHS.
He used to come home now and then. Now he doesn't please me because now he's wearing bourgeois shirt, bourgeois tendency, bourgeois proclivity, bourgeois tendency.
No, you are my friend.
Come as good friend.
You are my friend.
My contribution is this.
Yes.
My contribution is this. Please, Mark, my friend. Is it? Do you know metaphor? Metaphor.
Yes.
I want you. I'm pleading with you through the president to marry metaphorically with the following ministers. One minister of information, who is my good friend also, Mwetwa. Two, minister of finance. Minister of finance. And three, that other ministry, rural development. Why I'm saying like that, these issues you are articulating could fit well. So you work with them very closely as a team and come up. Two, I want you, if possible, you to form something like a think tank. A think tank whereby you will be coming up with policies, what, not only talking. And lastly, this. People are talking, your UPND is not doing what UPND are not. What you should not forget is that we people in Eastern Province were saying that our president. And those people from our brothers, sisters were saying, remember Takatekepo. So we graduated when UPND won elections, we graduated from Chikuwabe to Chakuwabe. You were telling us Chikuwabe, but this time Chakuwabe, meaning that we are now healthy. But at least HH is doing something. Please, when you get time, kindly call me so that we can talk more.
No
but
problem.
One thing I would like to blame you. To blame you, Papa Kadongarama, Simuuwe. Who that you were in the past, you are the one who, when you were at the radio,
yes,
who thought that man should go to India,
yes,
was disabled.
Yes.
Now, be mentioning the disabled, you have never mentioned, even yesterday when I was listening to you on Onza. You mentioned persons with disabilities.
No, you remember, I mentioned them on TV. I'm sure you
from
missed.
From now on,
yeah.
you must mention us persons where or with disabilities wherever you go.
But, Mr. Ngwale, before you go,
December was our day.
Mr. Ngwale, before you go, yesterday was your day, not so?
Yeah, Sunday.
Yes, Sunday, I mean, it was your day. Yesterday, I actually discussed issues on TV relating to persons with disabilities. It's just that as you are a senior blind citizen, most likely you missed it. But maybe I'll come and lend you my eyes if you need them.
Yes. Please,
then you also lend me your vocabulary.
This man, when he was at Unza Radio, did very well. Me and with your Mumbipi, we married metaphorically.
Yes.
Mumbipi and I married metaphorically, and through him we did it very well.
Thank you.
Please call me so that with disabilities, the impotent, the blind, and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ngwale. Great.
Thank you.
Great. There you are. To once again remind our listeners that our guest this morning is Mark Simuuwe, who is the United Party for National Development Research Consultant. Now, let me take some more calls before you respond. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Zaki.
Good morning, my
Good
brother.
morning. How are you?
Dr. Simuuwe.
Yes, my brother.
Honorary. Good morning.
Morning, thank you.
This is Katra Inoki.
Okay.
On the line. Yes.
Where are you calling us? Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Kawangwe.
Great. Please go ahead. Please go ahead and be quick.
Thank you, Professor Ngwale. Greetings to you. First of all, I would like to appreciate you for the information that you are giving out to the public who may not have understanding or who may have very little understanding on what the intentions of the government is. Because wherever we are brought up from somewhere, and I'm sure, first of all, I would like to mention that the Zambians made progress to remove the passport and usher in the UPND government. That was the serious progress to me. And those were reasons. It was very serious. The serious progress that we ever made. First thing. Secondly, we are seeing the projection, the actions that the government is taking in preparation for the better things to come. Because we are coming from a very hostile kind of economic environment, political environment, social environment. All these were bad, but they have to be repaired from somewhere. And we need to get time. And these are the people complaining and condemning the truth. Yes, we understand the truth come with the cost. But if we compare the cost to the benefit, the cost the benefits outweigh the cost in future, in the next 4, 3, 5 years. I'm very happy to see Mopani coming again. I'm an ex-miner. I was involved in a mine accident in Wofan, and my leg was chopped off. You understand? I do things single-legged. You understand? So, like Mr. I wouldn't want to repeat what Mr. spoken, but I'm sure you are going to work on them. But it is very, very good. I always send something every week to my different brothers and sisters who are still in together because they don't know what to touch. You understand? So now that Mupani is back, honest Nanguri in the shore, do I call him to Africa? You kill yourself because you kill such a person and then you also die. You behave like an HIV virus that dies with the host. Doesn't make sense. So we need to improve, we need to work. Of course, there are people who have got their own shortcomings, but you can always advise them over. Otherwise, that's what I wanted to say. Mr. Simuuwe, I would like to see you.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
Now,
thank you, Enoch.
Yeah, he wants to see me. Maybe I share the number with him.
Sure.
I share the number with him. Then you send me a message with names so that because I receive so many calls, I'll be able to tell that this is this one.
Yeah. So what you do, Enoch, is the same number you called us on. Just send us a message of your names and details. Yeah. Please send us your details on the same number that you called. Now, there's an issue that Mr. Ngwale raised, and I'm sure many other people out there have the same question. And the question is, if you are UPND research consultant, who do you present your research to? Is it the party or is it the president? Is it the government? And how does your research, which I think, for example, all the wealth that and knowledge that you've gotten from probably your stay in China, it is a model that you think that this government is implementing, but there is more that can be done. How is your research relayed to government eventually for implementation?
Thank you. Now, look, the way Zambia is positioned, just like China, one of the things that they've done, they are saying they have got a homegrown model. At the same time, they also borrow what is good for them. They will borrow from Europe, they will borrow from the West. That is their approach to leadership. And that has helped them. Similarly, in Zambia, because we have similar, different bilateral relations, there are areas of cooperation between Zambia and countries like the United States of America, the European countries, and many African countries. And we agree on various fundamentals. Now, in terms of the UPND, so that you may really appreciate how we are structured.
Right.
UPND, first of all, has a research committee. And you need to understand, it's called Research and Manifesto Committee. What you are seeing now is not by accident. There is a committee that came up with a program, and then that program was adopted by the National Management Committee, which is a semblance of Central Committee in the Patriot Front.
Yes.
And adopted as a manifesto, not the summary manifesto. So those 10 points plan that you see, they are unpacked in terms of the framework and how they can be operationalized. So the free education was just appearing as a blanket statement in there. But then the programs you're seeing, which are coordinated, the CDF here, what, are contained right in the brainchild of the research committee. So when we formed government, the first thing that we did, we realized that even civil servants were not sure of some of the policies that we had. One of the things that we did was to start conducting workshops for those implementing persons in government. They must first of all be indoctrinated. They should know that there will be free education. Most of them agreed with the previous leadership that it's not practical because there is no money. They did not know the model and the approach, the framework that we had put in place on how to use the little money that we have, until it was explained to them. That's how they came out of the shell. They started helping. So there are a number of initiatives. So at party level, there is a research committee. And you should know also that in the cabinet that you see, the ministers, 65% of the cabinet members are members of the National Management Committee, which is a policy-making body of the United Party for National Development. I want you to
I get you.
So apart from consultancy, you need to know, apart from consultancy, which I provide, that particular committee is chaired by the president, and I'm the secretary there. Okay. So we're moving towards having almost all ministers to be part of the National Management Committee. It's not a secret. This is a governing body of the United Party for National Development. It has sectors within which run like a cabinet. Also, it's not a cabinet, but it's at party level, where you have the chairman for mines. We have deployed one, Mr. Pesichanda, is going into foreign mission as a diplomat. So now there will be a replacement. He was chairman for mines, a person who understands mining. So he ran a committee composed of technocrats, mines, away from the party. Then those were coming up, they have been in the mines, they've done mining. They will now start saying, what are the challenges in the Zambian mining industry? How can we deal with them? Then they'll come up with that. Under health, there is another chairman. You've heard of that, Dr. Sakahiro. He's in charge of a committee on health. They will review the health policies that we have in government and then provide, a template that we've come to run the government. Because when you're running the government, when you're campaigning, what you use as a manifesto is what you're going to do when you form government. So now that committee will deal with health. Then you go SME. That Elias Mubanga you are seeing at party level was in charge of the committee on SMEs. So Zambians thought it is a ministry that was being born, not realizing there has been a committee for many years within UPND, and the chairperson was Elias Mubanga. He knew exactly what we were supposed to do with SMEs. The moment we formed the government, there was a ministry. The green economy, same. Infrastructure, same. There is a chairperson for infrastructure in the party with a committee of technocrats. Then I'll be at the center now coordinating. When they bring the information, we're doing coordination and so on. By the way, because I can also do opinion polls, because I lectured research for some years. So I can conduct an opinion poll across the country using stratified sampling, because that's the right one, because you're dealing with regions. You cannot use other research techniques. You put these into some strata, because in each province, you find people in classes. There's a lower class, there's a middle class, there's an upper class. So I'll know exactly what research technique to use in that area. And you know that when you're dealing with a survey has a bigger sample. So I'll know exactly what will be the population, what will be the sample frame. I aggregate it, then what will be the sample size, and how those will be representative of the entire population. So information will be put on the table that way. That's why I was telling you that politics is not just about talking that you're going to form government. People don't just know how complex the system they are dealing with is when they are assuming leadership. That's why I've told people when they were crying over minimum, they don't know how we are finding solutions for load shedding. In a short period, we have a chairman for energy with a framework on how we are going to run the country, and the committee having technocrats that have done electric engineering, among other issues. That's why we were able to issue statements on the state of Kariba Dam, among others. So if you were to ask about research, UPND deals with teamwork, where people complement each other based on their expertise. And then you have now the president now, he can now easily assign, okay, those can do that. Then you have a person that deals just with mobilization, Sylvia Maseo. Secretariat, Secretary General does not run the way it runs in the Patriot Front. His job is to simply coordinate these people that have already been tasked with different activities, just coordinating, and for record keeping. So, even if the Secretary General can conduct mobilization, UPND is different. There is a mobilization chair. So you will find that the Secretary General has also, in the Constitution, has the roles of a Secretary General, which even some members of the UPND, because for your record, it's not a secret, I will be conducting capacity building across the country. Understanding the manifesto, understanding where we are going, challenges that are there across the country. But then the point I'm trying to drive home is that apart from simply coordinating, the Secretary General can also initiate programs within the party to see that structures continue to reform and become strong. Because most of the people may have been deployed elsewhere. And now when they become civil servants, they can't participate in it. Except for MPs and ministers, because those are exempted. They can have a position in the party because they are politicians. They can also hold the position of a minister. That is a different thing altogether.
I believe that answers Mr. Ngwale's question, because he was advocating that you should think.
But there's another group again. There's another group
again. So practically, there is a think tank.
There is a think tank group.
Practically, there is, yeah. So, but then, look, unfortunately, time is not with us, Mark. I would like to get your concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. I want to thank 5FM that has been so prompt in terms of providing a platform for different persons in the country, and playing a very critical role in enhancing the democratic dispensation of this country, and also helping persons who are aggrieved in various areas, and also to be a platform for information exchange as well as education. And I want to promise citizens that the same person that promised free education, the same person that promised also that the economy will improve, the economy is going to improve. Right now, what we are doing and what we are going through is a passing phase. No country right now has been spared. Many of our colleagues in the neighborhood, in other countries in the region, are even going through numerous crises, such that even when I've interacted with people from other countries, they've asked me, how are you managing? I've seen government advertising for recruitment. We are in a crisis. How are you managing to do that? Even put them on the payroll. So you can see that there is political will. Government is right in control of what is going on. The kwacha that you are seeing will soon normalize. The fuel that you are seeing will have a solution. And it will not be long before certain things are done. So continue supporting government. I know many people have confidence in the president that they have, and they know that he can do it. And I think we are on course. So I can safely say thank you very much for offering this platform. And thank you to those that came through that code, Enoch Inclusive, and hope Enoch will send the number.
I've sent it to you.
Thank you very much.
Sent it to you already. He has sent and I forwarded it to you. So thanks a lot, Mark. Well, listeners, that's what we had for you today. Apologies once again that we started the program slightly late. This was due to circumstances beyond our guests' control. But we had that program, and I'm sure that those that listened and started from inception got one or two, and we are grateful that you found time to tune in. We are grateful also to our partner radio stations, Tuta FM in Mansa, and of course, Thank you very much on 90.7. We are grateful to Spice FM on 91.1 in Kabwe, covering Central Province, and grateful also to Wave FM in Mazabuka, covering the rest of Southern Province. We will be back on Thursday with the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue. From us is take care of yourselves, and more so,